Hey, welcome to PUFFcast. My guest is Peter RENZULLO, a fellow countryman and a remarkable experimental filmmaker. He dives deep into his production techniques for making two very impressive music videos, Favorite and Evaporate. These are stunningly produced films, and Peter's remarkable drive and talent overshadows the fact that he is practically blind. And a heads up, you're going to hear a couple of evolved GENEXERS reference cool as fuck things from the golden years of popular culture and the age of DIY film. Punk ethos and the magical outcomes from getting in the zone. Peter's enthusiasm for alternative screen culture and the gratitude he expresses for Puff is inspiring. Enjoy the conversation and support the channel. Thanks for listening. Catch you on the next one. Ciao for now. Hi Peter, welcome to the show.
Mate, thank you, and this, also thank you for putting on Puff at all. It's a wicked idea for a festival, mate.
Oh, thanks, man. It's been a journey, and unfortunately, I had to compromise the festival because it was in direct clash with the WA Screen Culture Awards.
Oh, okay, right.
Believe it or not. And so I decided to cancel all the events except for experimental film.
Oh wow, okay, fair enough. Well, I'm glad to be part of that, mate. It's an honour.
Oh, no problem, man. Yeah, look, it's an idea I had a while ago, and it's turned out great. All the work has been fabulous. So yeah, we're here to talk about your work.
Yes, absolutely it.
Let's just cover your background first.
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess I'm a good fit for this festival because I'm entirely self-taught in the fact that when I first got into filmmaking in any serious capacity, I literally started writing a script. I sold half my recording studio, like my amplifiers and my microphones, to buy this secondhand little Blackmagic camera to start filming my feature film on. So I didn't have a clue how to press record, let alone set up a shoot. So it was my education into filmmaking was actually making my first feature film. And that was back in 2017. So it took me 2 years to make, and that was me doing everything. I was holding the boom, I was in front of the camera, I was directing, I was behind the camera. It was just a whole lot, and it was awesome. It was such a great way to do things, and I haven't strayed from that. I've always been delving into techniques and just methods through invention. It wasn't through doing courses at all, which was not to say that courses are bad, but for me, it was just great to get behind the camera and figure out how to make things.
Yeah, awesome. That's what we call DIY.
Very DIY.
Yeah, that's punk as fuck.
Yep. That's right.
It's guerrilla filmmaking.
It is.
I love it. That's how I roll pretty much. I've never made a professional film, but you know, I've churned out some pretty decent content. When I ran my local film festival for 8 years, Spliff, it stood for Screening Perth's Local Independent
Films. I love that.
Yeah, that was a happy accident, actually. But the major majority of films I screened had like no budgets but told great stories.
Yes, yeah, cool.
And pushed boundaries and were highly entertaining.
Awesome.
I think
there's not a lot out there that is truly unique, I think, in as far as the way the methods that are made.
But I'm getting back into it now. I've had a bit of a break from all that, but my experience coming back into it has been interesting. The process now is more digital based than, you know, I used to deal with DVDs and tapes.
Oh God, yeah.
You know,
the bad old days. Yeah.
So, but I do want to talk about that side of things later. But we'll just So that's so independent DIY.
Yes.
All the way. Yeah, I get it. And I mean, looking at your incredible music videos.
Oh, thank you.
The detail is immense.
Oh, thank you, mate.
Yeah. So let's just talk about favourite.
Yeah.
And I'll just read out the synopsis
Sure.
and then the Yeah. A music-based story about a mother who loses her young daughter and tried to come to terms with the aftermath that follows such an experience. You want to go into that?
Well, this is obviously, and when you watch the video, you'll see that's the premise of this. The idea behind the story is entirely created by the singer of what I'm part of, is this duo called Amify. So the singer Amy Phoenix, she wrote the lyrics and she had the story, and really to delve into it in complete detail, probably best for her to do, because it is actually her story. It's a true story. But the idea I wanted to get across on the screen was to have this very raw, very almost, almost low quality looking animation of her, just her face the whole time. She's just looking to camera the whole time, shoulders up, and it's just her singing to camera. But then either side of her, you see these little scenes being played out by the mother and daughter. And, and what I wanted to do though is I wanted to get it animated as far as the feel, but nothing in this video is animated. You're actually looking at real footage that's being completely manipulated with the color grading, and also just the way we shot it was done in a way that we could change things around. And even the way like she moves around and the way the people move around, they're sort of jerky and fast moving like an animation is. But the way we did that is because the way we shot the film was everything was in half speed. So I got her to sing along the song at half speed. So I could speed it up to double speed and her mouth would be in time. And then when I changed all the coloring and did all the stuff to it, she looked more animated than if you just changed the color of someone in real time. So it was really quite an exercise in trying to achieve an animation feel, not just by coloring it differently, but actually shooting it in a way that would mean the result would be very jerky and very almost hand-drawn looking.
Yeah, it's amazing. I sort of thought that the characters looked very much like paper mache.
Excellent. That was our plan.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, it was achieved. It's you can tell there's a lot of experimentation gone into that. So I'll just read out your methodology.
Yeah, sure.
This film features an animation style aesthetic, but using real footage that has been manipulated in post-production, using a series of color, speed, and filter layering techniques to appear as a hand-sketched texture. Completely experimental techniques to achieve this look, and I agree.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Let's cover your other film, Evaporate.
Oh, yes. Yep.
Now, that's a lot more slicker. That's sort of the other side of the realm.
It is. It's using real footage, obviously, and again, it's featuring Amy. And just as a side note, all these videos, I've got about 5 of them at the moment, are from a project I'm part of called Amify, which is a duo turning into a full band. But basically, we're producing these music videos and releasing the songs as these visual experiences, and I'm using them to try and just push some ideas and techniques into things that I haven't done before. So every video that I make with Amify are things I had never tried. So Favourite, I didn't know that was going to turn out at all, but luckily it's turned out pretty cool. Evaporate, I wasn't sure how that water effect was going to turn out, but it's turned out pretty cool. So yeah, the effects in Evaporate, I wanted to have a bit of a 4 or 5 different types of shots. So her like switching costumes in between glitches, her face going from fully makeup with vines and veins into completely no makeup, but that's just through a screen of smoke going past her. Things like that was really cool, fun to play with, and that's all to do with timing, obviously, and cutting between different shots, but making sure they're framed in a way where it doesn't feel like you've changed shots. It just sort of feels like you've washed this smoke has washed away the makeup or brought the makeup in, or underwater where she's underwater. That was the reverse of Favourite. I got her to sing everything at double speed. Then I could slow it down to half speed. So she's singing in time with the song, but she's moving at half speed. Then I could change around her. Her face actually distorts a bit. It sort of wavers in and out like you would underwater. And then I put some layering of some water droplets that I filmed in a bucket. And I just used that layer, then made it translucent and put that above her so it looks like she's underwater. So there's some cool things that I've tried out. And again, it's all stuff that I thought well, as I'm saying it to you, that's how as far as I'd gone with trying it. I just thought of, this could be cool. I'll try making some water in a bucket, and I'll try. And then when I did it, luckily it worked. So it was all completely trial and error. And luckily she's a bit of a trooper, and she went along with it.
That's great. That is just hardcore delving into experimentation and just there's a sort of I'm going to fuck this up now. I call it the zone.
Yeah.
When you're in your creative zone and you're just so focused on achieving your goal, but you're experimenting along the way.
Yeah.
And there's just something leading you either this way or that way,
Yeah.
And
But it's so true. I think and what excites me about filmmaking, I mean, for me, the story is king. Your story has to be engaging, has to be, I suppose in a way empathetic, so people can get it and people understand it. But also the visuals. I love throwing things in the visuals that I'd love to figure out how to do that. Like I've got one video where I have a guy who's falling down a mine shaft. So how do I make him float in the air without actually having a float in the air? So I thought of some ideas of having him filmed like upper body first, like flailing his arms in the air like he's falling. Then I had him lying on his back and shooting his legs up in the air and sort of kicking him like he's sort of, and then I flipped those two frames around, joined them together, and he's sort of floating in midair. So things like that, I thought, this is really cool fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, imagery can be manipulated so many different ways now. And yeah, I love the mashing of technology, and I run things like through filters all the time, and just these, did you view my film Secrets of the Universe?
Yeah, that's coming up in this festival, isn't it?
Yeah,
I've had a bit of a sneak peek, but no one's seen that yet. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they think of it. It's great. It's really cool.
Well, that part at the very end where it shows a fountain in a park.
Yes,
that's the original footage of the entire film. I turned that small 9-second piece of rough footage into a 4-minute.
Now that's awesome.
Yeah,
there you go. There you go. I mean, and that you had to think of that and conceive of that. You didn't just press the fountain button on Da Vinci or anything. You had to come up with that and work out the process how to do it. And that's what I love about filmmaking is you can do these things.
Yeah, you
dream up these things in your head, and if you can make it work out on the program, it's amazing. It's such a sense of. You've birthed something that wasn't there 2 seconds ago. Now you've made it work, and there it is. And it's only there because you've made it happen. It's awesome. I love that feeling.
Yeah, well, that's the freedom of experimentation.
Yeah.
And as I was literally editing the video and putting the music together at the same time.
Yeah.
And because it's pretty surreal, I had to come up with some kind of surreal sort of story.
Sure.
And in the end, a 9-second piece of rough footage.
Isn't that awesome?
Into a 4-minute mind-blowing extravaganza.
Absolutely, man. It's fantastic though, isn't it? And I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, I mean, sometimes do you find the idea of a cool-looking shot comes before the story, so you think, oh, that's a cool-looking shot. What sort of story can I fit that shot in? Or do you do the opposite? Do you think, here's a story,
Yeah, look, I don't know what compelled me to take that little... But I looked at this fountain and I just thought the spray makes a cool effect.
Yes.
And I'll just capture the spray and just leave it on the shelf and come back, and then one night, bang.
Yeah, how cool is that? It's amazing, isn't it? That's so good. But you're right. Sometimes with experimentation like this, you'll end up with a result you weren't even thinking would work out, or you didn't even expect. And that's the beauty of this, isn't it? So sometimes you're a passenger in your own sort of creation. It's awesome.
Yeah, the unpredictability and the satisfaction of the unexpected result.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely it. It's awesome. Yeah. And it's so much more satisfying doing that than, I suppose, calling back to my other video, the Evaporate, than just finding the underwater button and pressing that. Oh, yeah, there's the effect there. As opposed to trying to find out a way to do that and making it from scratch. It's so much more rewarding. And it's awesome. It's more unique.
Yeah. So let's talk about modern technology. I mean, we're using it for good.
Yes, absolutely.
But... you and I grew up in a time, before the internet.
Of course.
And we've evolved with technology.
Yep.
and but we know what technology, how, you know, you literally had to be qualified.
Absolutely.
To use computers.
Yep.
And machinery and
and not just that, just the sheer expense of having that technology was way out of reach.
The gear was so expensive.
Yep, absolutely.
And you know, you used to have to buy RAM.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, that's right. And the amount of RAM back then was very low for the cost. Oh my God, it's eye-watering.
A stick of RAM, please.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly it. It's so true. But even some of these programs that we're using now, for example, DaVinci Resolve is you know, well, first there's a free version of it, but if you want to get the full version, it's like $400 something US or even Australian. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but look, my whole thing was they've taken easy to use too far.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
It's too. I mean, they keep saying it's easy. Anyone can do it. It's like, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you require talent.
Well, I think you're right. The actual the process of learning a program inside and out is an important one. I think it's important to do that. Even though, yes, you can just get plugins for certain effects, or you can just get certain LUTs for certain color grading. It is still good to know the nuts and bolts of your program, and I think investing time into that is an important thing. That's why for me, I edit all my work, so I haven't got an employed editor. I wanted to get my hands dirty with the editing process because I wanted to learn how to use it. And now that I'm doing that, I just find so much freedom in that because I know all the corners, all the nooks and crannies of every part of that program, and I just feel so much power in that.
I've been using Photoshop since it came out.
Oh, wow. This is what, mid-80s or 90s?
Yeah, whatever the first one was.
Yeah, it's on way back. That's awesome.
And I did a 3-week course at TAFE.
Yeah. The basic functionality of it, if you got a version from mid-90s compared to now, is it that drastically different, the way the actual program works? Or is it basically the same?
The infinite, boundless things you can do.
I bet. Yeah.
In Photoshop now, but now we've got like Creative Cloud and all those kind of things. Sure. So there's so much opportunity, but I think that making digital smart technology accessible to the masses is just a marketing thing to sell technology to everybody. Yeah. But what it's done, it's you know, you used to have to hire a web designer, you know.
Yes, and that's a good point because now
it's put people out of work.
Yeah, now you just go to Squarespace or Wix or whatever, and you just get a template. You fill in your text and fill in your pictures, and your website's built in an afternoon.
Well,
you're right.
Yeah, look, I use Wix, but I've never used a template.
Oh, interesting. So you just use a platform, but you don't actually use their templates.
I create everything
that's cool.
from scratch.
Wow, that's a rare thing these days.
Yeah, because now they all kind of look the same, you know.
That's the point, is that, this technology is great for any beginners or anyone getting into it, but the boundaries that you're given, so the templates you're given, there's a certain point, everything is the same. There's no truly unique look anymore. Down to the fonts. I mean, you have 16 fonts to choose from or whatever. But what if, like yourself, I think you said you've designed some fonts. I mean, that's amazing.
Well, yeah. I sat down and watched Peter Jackson's Let It Be, the Beatles. Yep. And I got a permanent marker and I just kind of drew my font, drew the alphabet while I was being inspired by the Beatles.
That's awesome.
And but yeah, it was just a process of then taking photos of each letter and then going through Photoshop and taking out backgrounds.
That's so cool.
And just having a folder, and now I have like a Photoshop file with every letter in it, but I can actually upload my font to the font book as well.
Oh, can you really? So it is like that TFT, whatever it is.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I looked into it. I can do it. Yep. I just haven't done it. But it's you can get around it. It's just time consuming, but then if you're an artist, that's what you do.
But to even think to make your own font, I mean, just having that thought that you can make something unique and not just deal with what you have, it's a very unusual thought, but it shouldn't be. You know what I mean? The fact.
Well, this is it.
Yeah.
We used to remember the lettering book.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
and you would put your piece of paper over the top
Yep.
and trace it, but you learned how to draw font.
That's right. Exactly.
you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, the lettering book.
It's going way back now. I love it. But you're right. It's so cool that you do that because you even have that part of your brain saying, let's make something that's me. Let's make something that's unique to me because I want to express something that I can't see in these templates. I can't see in these parameters. I think that's a great thing. That's a great mentality to have as a filmmaker. I think anyone in life really, but as a filmmaker in particular, it's good to have that mentality. Don't just stick with the typical filters or plugins or whatever. If you have a certain idea in your head, try and figure out a way to do it. Even if you haven't been taught how to do it, doesn't matter. Just do it. I'm living proof of that.
Yeah, me too, man. But yeah, a lot of young people are just encouraged to use templates.
Of course.
And now we're seeing lots of filters now, especially on phones.
Yeah.
And I got to say, they're not that great.
Yeah, and they're all the same. You see the same. You see it once. You see it all.
Well, they're just exposures, or there's simple filters. But even like the special effects.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That they're not very good.
That's right.
So you are limited to what you can do.
That's right.
But having your own font just strengthens your brand.
I think
as well.
It's a great idea with your website, particularly with the Puff website. It's so true because the way you've structured that, obviously because you built it from scratch as well, you can see that you can feel there's something unique about this. There's no drag and drop in this website as far as the look of it. It's definitely
it also confuses people. I mean, I literally made it as simple as I could. You just click on a logo, but I've seen people just look at it and think, where to go now?
Yeah, yep.
There's nothing telling me to press this or telling me, I think smartphones killed the website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be compatible with a phone, otherwise it's not going to. Yeah, I see what you mean.
It all ties in,
yeah.
And you've got to kind of construct your design around all the like stickers and links and all this shit you have to put.
And everything has to be within one or at most 2 clicks, otherwise it's not worth it.
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is, I understand how it works now. Better now, but I come up with a really cool design and it looks great on the phone. And then if I want to put all this added information on it, I have to cover it in these horrible looking fucking stickers.
Sure.
And I'm like, I just can't do it.
No, fair enough.
It's going to ruin the design.
Yeah. But you're right, and so I wonder. I know it's an interview about me today, but I want to find out from you, like, what gave you the drive for Puff in particular, and specifically the experimental category? Why did you think, I want to get this as a festival? I want to get this more out there. What do you feel is either lacking, or what do you feel is going on here that needs to be shown in Perth?
Well, the Puff story is long and
its own podcast. Yeah.
Well, it's been a long journey.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just had a lot of obstacles.
Yeah.
And but I've been persistent.
You have been, but also I think that the concept of a film festival is like, traditionally, I guess, is here's some films to show off and we'll choose the best one. Whereas Puff seems to be, and in particular with this experimental one, here's some really cool films that have got some interesting ideas behind how they were made. Let's celebrate how they were made, not the film itself necessarily, but how they were made.
Exactly,
and that's an awesome. That's unique to a festival circuit. It's amazing.
So for Puff, it was always a concept of just promoting alternative screen culture.
It's awesome.
I was heavily involved in the bakery for many years, and it shut down.
Yeah, sure.
I'm from that world. I'm from alternative arts, and I did it for 20 years, and then. But I have to say, post-COVID, things have been a bit more sort of, I've had to really work harder to get alternative art funded. Yeah, I stopped writing proposals for Puff because they just didn't get it, I suppose. Yeah. But it's this, it wouldn't surprise me if the word underground kind of, put some fear inside them or something, because
that's
it's
right. Well,
you know,
the thing is, anything that was, especially when, you know, I was a teen in the 90s, early 90s and through, that the idea of something being underground was a cool thing, and that's what you wanted to gravitate towards, because that was the stuff that felt more authentic and more raw. For me, it was in the music scene, that anything that was an underground music scene, I love that stuff. I'd gravitate towards it. So underground like film, and especially an underground festival, that's a cool thing. And I think most people who are in this creative realm and they want to try and have their own voice heard, they'll gravitate towards an underground festival, because you're right, you have to be underground apparently today to get anything that's even remotely innovative.
and anyway, so I'm just a sort of advocate for alternative art and alternative thinking.
It has to be. And look, honestly, for me personally, and I'm sure for other fellow filmmakers, I just got to say thank you, mate, because you've put together this festival, and as soon as I saw the name of it, let alone read about the experimental category and stuff, I thought, this is what we need. We haven't had this ever. Just an actual proper festival that celebrates what the filmmaker's doing, not just the way the work looks, but how they're doing it. What's their method? Where's the passion behind what they're doing?
Yeah,
and let's celebrate that.
There's usually a lot of emphasis on how to get your film screened, and but that's an automated process almost now. I mean, we could talk about Film Freeway.
I know what you mean, but yeah, you're right. You almost have to, and sometimes people will create films to suit a certain market, which is fine, but then it just sort of kills the idea of just making a film for the sake of the story. And if it sells or not, it shouldn't be the drive. I know it is for a lot of people, but at this level, at the indie level, in this scene, you should be making stuff that you're proud of, and stuff that you like, stories that you care about. And a lot of the time, techniques that make those stories should be coming from your mind, not from a button that you press. You know, insert explosion. No, make something up and do something that's really unique to what your story needs. Don't just sort of fill in the gaps by joining the dots. It's an important thing to do. And this festival is a great way to showcase the artists who want to do that, who want to make stuff from scratch. And it's a really cool thing.
You know, Puff isn't about shocking people.
No, but it's about being free to express your opinions and your thoughts and your creativity. That's the beauty there.
Absolutely. But, you know, but think about alternative culture back in the day. There was some shocking stuff. People were really pushing boundaries in very provocative ways. Yeah,
definitely.
But that was like that was punk attitude.
Absolutely,
you know?
Absolutely.
Anti-establishment, think out of the box, DIY, and people push boundaries. I don't, you know, support like vulgar. I never got into Gigi Allen or any of that kind of shit, you know.
but you supported free thought and the freedom to express those thoughts, and
exactly,
and the freedom to either watch or not. You know, that's the thing. The onus is on the viewer. They can choose to watch or not. Don't just get offended because you have to watch it. No one's forcing you to watch anything. You can do what you want, and that's the beauty of it. Sometimes people forget that. Any art that's created, if it's offensive to you, cool, just don't watch it. Don't feel you have to then get on a platform and say this is wrong because you think it is. That's not how it works.
But there's nothing extreme in Puff's program.
No, not at all.
The other thing is that it's not a conventional film festival because it's not collecting all these films from everywhere and judging them and blah blah blah. All the events at Puff are designed by me over the years, and are all literally about film genre.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But this sort of seems to confuse people because they're so used to the same conventional formula that film festivals run. You know?
Yeah, that's right.
So it's been it's been a learning curve along the way, marketing wise. But this experimental film event has really shone and exceeded my expectations.
Awesome.
It's always been a genre that I've loved. Do you remember watching Eat Carpet?
Oh, of course, yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, Eat Carpet was was SBS?
It was SBS. Or ABC? No, SBS. I think it was. Yeah.
I think it was late night SBS. Eat Carpet was like half an hour or an hour of short films from around the world.
It was so cool.
And they were all really unconventional and experimental.
Yep, exactly.
And things like that. I've always been a fan of the work of Jan Svankmajer.
Oh,
you know
yes, I do.
work?
Yes. Yeah, I can see totally where you're coming from now. Absolutely.
Yeah. He was one of the very early alternative screen culture pioneers with stop animation using kitchen utensils.
It was insanely cool.
Yeah. So the genre has got a lot of potential, and
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what you're doing with Puff is heading towards that, because a lot of the time with these festivals, it's a category you can put your film into on these festivals for experimental or whatever. But this, with what you're doing, it's like, here's a category, but also I'm going to get in touch with every single filmmaker, do a podcast with them to discuss behind the scenes of what they actually did. I mean, that's exciting for filmmakers, that someone's interested in hearing their methods and hearing their madness, really. I mean, it's pretty cool. And I think that's what's different here, is that you've done something more personal than just click on this button for experimental and pay the fee. You've done something really cool here, mate. So I think you're really proud of yourself.
Oh, thanks, man. Appreciate that. The conversations have been really cool, and meeting filmmakers and just new people in general is always cool.
Absolutely.
And it's a good promotional marketing tool as well.
It is, and it's also, as well as the promotional, it's also quite inspiring for filmmakers who have, maybe for this year, who have got their films in this year. They'll think, oh, cool, I want to make some more for next year. I want to get motivated now to make more of these sort of films, because there's obviously a desire for people to watch this stuff, and seeing their fellow experimental filmmakers in town, it's an inspiring thing to know that you've actually got a scene here that people are doing this stuff. Whereas it might be sometimes quite an introverted thing is to make your own little experimental films. But if there's other people around who are doing this, you'll be inspired to do more, because you want to show it to them, you want to share it with them. It's awesome.
And also, submitting your work is free.
Absolutely.
And it's just a simple process. You don't have to go through another company.
No, exactly right. Exactly. It's great with the person who's doing it, who runs the thing. It's awesome.
Yeah. That's how I rolled back in the day. But submitting to Spliff was always free. Yep. How much do we want to slog people? Things have gotten... I was doing everything by hand.
Well, there you go. Yeah, exactly right.
And now I should have charged back then, because it was all it was all physical. You know,
that's right.
But now it's even just so much more automated that there's no... I don't understand.
Well, look, the thing is that you've obviously gone into this, and this is for you way back, but in general, you haven't gone into this to say, okay, how am I going to make money from this festival? That wasn't your thought to start with. It wasn't, okay, what do I charge to get people into this festival so I can make money? And that's obviously what everyone on Film Freeway is doing. Surely. You click on a button, there's a cost, you go put it to the checkout and you're done. So there's no one who's made those festivals on Film Freeway who's thinking, I just want to do it for the love of films. No, you're making money, obviously, which is fine, that's fine. But your ethos seems to be, it's a free festival. There's tickets to go to actually see the screening, which is obviously normal, but there's no cost yet. And the amount of work you've put into the site and to the marketing and to even to doing this today with the recording of these podcasts, you're just doing this for the love of it, and it gives you such cred that you're doing this for the right reasons.
Well, thanks, man. But you got to have integrity.
Yes,
But the Backlot is a great venue.
It is,
and it's very very supportive. Yep. I think just trying to get it off the ground and trying to prove that it's not a sort of it's not Trasharama.
No.
Do you ever go to Trasharama?
Oh yeah. Right. Well, that's the thing. There is a certain quality control involved in this too. You can't just submit anything. You filmed a wall for half an hour. So there's a certain limit to experimental, but it's got to have some sort of lateral thinking behind it, not just sort of filming weird stuff for the sake of it. There's got to be some thought. There's got to be a story. There's got to be, and you as a creative, you know that and know what to look for. So that's why it's great that you can curate these things.
Well, it doesn't necessarily even have to be story based. Even if it was, some sort of effect that happened during a process.
Yeah, true.
True. And things like that. It could be completely, utterly down to
good
technique.
Point. That's a good point.
I think I had to put a kind of a standard in place where make sure your sound levels aren't bursting.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And no sort of grotesque imagery,
that's right.
and nothing too violent or
fair enough.
And just keep it to don't go over the top.
Yeah.
And don't kill everybody's hearing at the same time.
It's a good point. It's a good point. It's true.
How about just fling us off some influences, creative influences, film, music.
So for me, look, for as far as film goes, I'm a big fan of the Coen brothers. I love their stuff.
Oh yeah,
and but also your quintessential ones like your Scorsese's and Tarantino's. I love that sort of stuff there. I love films that tend to be very dialogue driven. I'll happily sit there and listen to an awesomely performed 10-minute monologue over any sort of like fast-paced car chase. I couldn't care less about that. But I love, that's why I love story-driven films, especially ones that are really quite unique and the characters are quite unique. So, and the Coen brothers do that in spades. So that's why I love their films. So definitely they're an influence as far as my writing goes. And as far as just like creating like the effects and creating the visuals that I do, there's not a particular sort of genre or filmmaker that I tend to follow, but I do like to sort of lean towards practical effects, so things that I can actually do in the camera, as opposed to purely virtual effects. But I incorporate both, but I love doing the stuff like cutting the guy in half and making him fall down the mine shaft, that sort of stuff there. I love doing that sort of stuff. So yeah, so that's where I come from, is that sort of from storytelling. I love that sort of Coen brother, very dialogue driven stuff. But when it comes to effects and stuff, I just love the practical, in the can, in the room itself, under real lights sort of effects that I try and experiment with.
Yeah, I was I got right into Kubrick.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, when I was a kid, when I was like 7 or something, a friend of mine and I were dropped off by his mum to the Inaloo Twin Cinema, and we walked into the opposite cinema, and I sat through 2001: A Space Odyssey when I was like fucking 7.
Love it.
And it stayed with me forever, that film.
Mate, that opening sequence, what the hell? Is this
the dawn of man?
I know.
Yeah.
Incredible stuff. Incredible.
Yeah. So I sat through that and went through the monolith and everything at a really young age. And it just stayed with me forever, that film.
Yeah.
So I was heavily into Kubrick.
That's awesome.
But it wasn't you were limited to the information you had back then about filmmaking or in general. But and anyway, when the internet came along, like you could find out so much more about his techniques and methodologies.
That's right. But it's a good point. Before the internet, everything was a mystery. How did he do that? How did he manage to morph that shot into this shot? Whereas now you go onto the internet, you type in the film name and then behind the scenes, or film name and visual effects technique, and you get it straight away. So a bit of magic's lost in that regard, but it's also very cool to see, this is actually an awesome way of doing this. It's quite unique, and it's great to have that information there. But sometimes it was kind of cool just not to know how that was done and be wondering how was that achieved. I remember that. I remember thinking that as a kid too. That I was thinking that's amazing. Yeah, it's magic.
Yeah. Are you a fan of Stan Winston?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. See all those practical masks and costumes.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely, it's so
all
so
that
cool
stuff. Yeah, it's fantastic.
You just can't beat real lights on a real thing, on a real object. It just feels right. You can almost feel the weight of that gravity on that thing, as opposed to. I don't know. I'm not a massive fan of Marvel films. I mean, obviously they're amazing, stunning visual effects, but that's all they are to me. Whereas stuff back then, it was so cleverly done and so impressive. Like for example, with Kubrick, that big ballroom that was just all glass, all that sort of reflective silver and gold glass room in what was it? Was it The Shining, where he's in that massive hall that's all it's all speckly and glittery. And what the props behind that, they had to drill these little sort of, was it silver or gold? I think it was. In the end, it was gold. I think tiny little discs into thousands of these discs into the wall, so that it would shimmer. and you think, what the amount of work that went into that, and just the thought, oh, let's make this room shimmer. These days, you press the shimmer button. So it's just that just impresses me so much.
Can you imagine the disgruntled assistant that had to do it?
Oh my God, absolutely.
And and Kubrick would probably walk up there and goes, "I want all that change."
He did. Now. Yeah, he did. I think they were all silver first. He goes, "Oh, let's make them gold." Like what? So that sort of stuff there is just awesome, you know. And you can't beat that. And obviously, when they were filming on actual film too, just the texture of real film, just things. I just love that golden era of when visual effects were just so unique, and they really were groundbreaking. It's amazing.
Yeah, they were. What would you consider groundbreaking today?
That's a great question. Oh, geez. As far as visual effects goes, it's a hard one to answer because nothing is so groundbreaking that it's impossible. You can make an alien appear in your room without any issues. It's just it's so easy to do now. You might have an aliens effects pack that you can just put in, and it's got this sort of 3D alien you can put in there. These days, it doesn't matter. So, good question. I didn't even know the answer to that. What would be groundbreaking these days? I wonder if it's something that incorporates AI. I'm not sure, but it'd have to be something that that technology today is just not quite able to do well. And I think that would be what is groundbreaking, is something you could not anticipate would even work. And like it did back then, like what was involved in making things work back then. And 2001 is a great film as an example. That was made in the friggin' 60s. Like, what the hell? I mean, it's incredible to think how they did that. So these days, I don't have an answer for that. I'd have to see it. I've got no idea.
Well, I mean, I'm waiting for AI to be injected straight into the cinema.
It's not far. It's not far, surely.
But whether the quality. But remember that the superhero, the influx of the superhero reboot, also rebooted 3D.
Yeah.
And that was next level. But they did it to death. That it just went out of. It just became unpopular.
Yeah, it did. It's true.
But that was where I think that was the last time they took the technology to a level of virtual sort of reality.
Absolutely. And I think, I think that's the thing is that, and yeah, it was very impressive. And if they can create something that somehow incorporates more of your senses than just your eyes and your ears, I reckon that'd be kind of cool. So if there was a film experience that involved at certain points in the film where there was something that you felt crawling on your skin, or you had a certain there's a certain smell came through in the room. If there was a cooking scene, things that could incorporate different senses, that's probably what I'd consider groundbreaking.
I was blown away by VR when I first played it, and
it's so uncanny, isn't it?
I played a Star Wars game which literally transformed me into an X-wing pilot. Pilot.
It's insane.
And I'm sitting in there. I'm in the X-wing, and I pull up to the Death Star and shit, and I'm flying around. It is so unreal. It really is. But I get really nauseous.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because your brain is so confused.
I know, but the technology's unreal.
Oh
right?
Yeah, insane.
But yeah, so the digital 3D glasses thing happened, and then it just sort of just went away.
That's right, yeah. And so whether that was just a case of it was a fad from a marketing point of view, or it wasn't cost effective to do it, but it was a cool thing to have that 3D effect in the films. So I wonder if that would come back. I wonder if then what would be groundbreaking, I suppose, would be if they can somehow create a technology where you don't need to wear any glasses, but what you're experiencing is 3D. That'd be a cool thing. If they can somehow, that'd be something. I'd imagine that'd be a groundbreaking technology to find a flat screen and you're experiencing 3D without wearing any glasses. That'd be cool.
Well, that would be kind of hologram.
That's right.
Technology.
It feels like you're watching. There's depth, like you're watching a theater stage. It's like there's depth to it, but it's a film.
Well, yeah, that's where I can. That's the only other sort of place I can see it going is to hologram technology. That's so crystal clear and real that it's just you don't even need a a monitor.
Absolutely. Or like I'm a big fan from the old days when I was when I was young. It's so embarrassing, but I was a massive Star Trek fan, and I loved the idea of the hologram, the holodeck. Sorry.
Oh,
the holodeck
the holodeck.
So like you program in what world you're in and who's in there or what era, and then you're just walking around in this big room that's like a grid, and then it turns on. It's like an actual like VR, but you're not wearing a VR set. So that'd be cool.
Well, Gene Roddenberry was working with NASA back in the day.
Was he really?
And and he they took on some of his technology ideas.
Know that.
Well, the original Star Trek series portrayed the LCD technology.
They did. That's right. Good point.
Communications, flip phones.
Yeah, or automatic doors, which weren't even a thing back then because of sensors.
Yeah, automatic doors. Yeah. Hey, it's me. Sorry, but unfortunately, the conversation abruptly ends here because I suppose I fucked up. But I hope you dug it anyway, and thanks for listening, and see you at Puff.